good's his running game?
The running game's good. I think this is probably one of the best offenses certainly in the conference, if not the best in the conference. And man, I have a hard time believing there's better in the country than these guys. For a number of reasons. Number one is the multiplicity of what they do, the different schemes that they have, how good they are up front. Sometimes people do a lot of, I don't want to say junky, but crazy things because they're not very good up front, and these guys are good up front. So, if they just wanted to line up and get after you, they could do that too. And then the skill of the ball carriers, across the positions, the receivers, the backs, the quarterbacks, all capable. So it's a challenge.
Quarterbacks layer that in, it just becomes incredibly difficult.
Yeah, and the emergence of Ficklin has kind of been another layer to the thing. And Dampier was a good runner from the outset, and then he's taken a lot of hits, and he's still a very capable runner. He hasn't. They've kind of shifted some of those duties to Ficklin a little bit, and some of the backs, but. So I don't know if I've seen Ficklin get tackled yet this year. I don't know if that exists on tape anywhere. And Dampier too. I mean, just a bigger, stronger runner, kind of like a Jalen Daniels type body that is just hard to bring down.
How much changes in that offense between one or the other when they're in?
I think they do what they do. I don't think that there's a lot that changes. I think they're both capable throwers, and both obviously have. That's one of the things that impresses me about their offense. Formationally, I mean, they could have 3 or 4 different personnel groups and be in the same formation, and it's about players, not plays. And I suppose at the end of the day, that's the way it should be.
Joe, you guys got 5 turnovers at Oklahoma State. It seemed like every time you needed one, you got one. What went into that?
Well, I think, to be honest, I think it starts with how tenacious the D-line was. I think they were a big part of those. Obviously the sack fumbles are a big part of that, but I know we had a tipped ball, we had, a pressured throw, so I just think our pass rush and getting that going a little bit's been a big part of that. And I'd love to say it's coaching, but it's not. It's those guys. We're promoting more get off, we're promoting more disrupt. I think a number of those were blitzes too, so it wasn't just the D-line, it was also the backers and whoever else was in on those. So, they timed it right and they hit it, and I think that's just the panic of the quarterbacks, I think, is sometimes a bigger factor in that stuff than what people give it credit for.
You've been subbing all year, but it really seemed like at Oklahoma State you subbed on the D-line just like every single opportunity you could. Yeah. What goes into that strategy from your end?
Well, we got a lot of guys that can play, and I think from our end, if you're good enough to play, we're going to play you. If you're below others, then we're not playing guys out of charity. That's not what it is. But on the D-line, we've got a lot of guys that are very comparable, and they all have different abilities, different skills, but they're all good players, and they all deserve to play. And so that, coupled with the fact that it was a hotter day, I mean, it was a rare November weather day down there. I mean, it was hot, and on our sideline, it was beating on us, and we were playing a decent amount of snaps, and so just our ability to rotate and keep those guys fresh was a huge factor in the game. And like to say we could do that at all positions. Some positions we're a little thinner right now than what we've been. We've had to make some lineup changes and some shifts, and there's some guys that are playing too many snaps. But kind of at this stage of the year, that's what it is.
Being assignment sound is always so important, but it just strikes me that Utah, as soon as you're out of a gap, they'll find it.
Yeah, they got a lot of 80-yarders, right? And we talk a lot about creating layers to the defense. Obviously there's that first wave of guys, and you hope you knock it down and get TFLs and that stuff, and sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But then, there's that next layer of guys. We use the term "don't waste yourself." Keep yourself alive, and I might be the C-gap player over here, but, man, there's nothing going on in that C-gap. How do I keep myself alive and keep the ball on my inside pad and create another layer to the defense? And then, then there's another layer beyond that of the secondary guys that are coming in there. And then the last layer is something we call secondary force. You might be a deep cover guy, and you can't just run up there and choose a side either. You've got to be that last line of defense so that the pursuit can gobble it up if it pops. And so that's been an emphasis point for us. Hopefully it doesn't come to that too often, but it does. I mean, and we've failed in that area at times this year. I think of some of the explosives, and that's something that we're going to have to re-examine, is we've just given up far too many explosive plays this year to be a great defense. At times we've been able to play well, but then we do something like that, and you just can't overcome some of those. And we got to kind of re-teach that and re-look at that and get better in that area. And it's going to be a great starting point this week.
After 10 games, who would you say has emerged as the leader of your defense?
I got to give there's last week, there was adversity throughout the course of the game, and there's a number of guys that stick out in my mind, but 3 I thought were excellent. One that's just been a rock star all year long, quietly, is Damian Elalio. He's been just, I think he's the calm, just the gentleman, and don't get me wrong, he's a warrior out there, but he has such a good mind for those things. He's been great. Cody Stufflebean's been great, a guy that's just been, steady Eddie. He doesn't get too high, he doesn't get low, he doesn't yell at people, he doesn't, complain. He just does. But when you look at him, you just feel calm. And it's not just me. The players feel that way too when they're around him. And the last guy, there are others, Des Purnell, and there are other guys, but the last guy that I just noticed last week that I thought was unbelievable was VJ Payne. He was, and VJ's been playing through a lot of injury, and he's had been very banged up, but I recall a couple instances last week where maybe something was busted or something wasn't quite right, and I saw long faces on a couple guys, and I just saw VJ grab him around the neck and just kind of one-on-one talk to him, and some of the guys that he was doing that with were major players toward the end of the game, and what he's been able to do through some of the injury that he's been through has been impressive.